The call came in at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night in March, and it changed everything Sarah Mitchell thought she knew about reality, about time, and about the thin membrane that separates the living from whatever waits on the other side. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the fluorescent-lit dispatch center in Cedar Falls, Minnesota, where Sarah sat in her ergonomic chair, nursing her third cup of coffee and watching the minutes crawl toward the end of her shift. Sarah Mitchell was 34 years old. She'd been a 911 dispatcher for 11 years, ever since she graduated from the community college with a criminal justice degree and realized that her anxiety made her too jumpy for actual police work. Behind the console, though, she was steady, reliable, the kind of voice that could talk a panicking mother through infant CPR or guide a domestic violence victim to safety while her abuser pounded on the bathroom door. Her supervisors called her unflappable. Her coworkers called her the Ice Queen, though never to her face. She lived alone in a small craftsman bungalow on Wicker Street, the kind of house with creaky hardwood floors and radiators that clanged in the winter. She'd bought it 3 years ago after her divorce from Daniel, a man who had seemed perfect until he wasn't, until the drinking started and the silences grew teeth. The house was her sanctuary now. She'd painted every room herself, hung fairy lights in the bedroom, adopted a gray tabby cat named Oliver who liked to sleep on her chest while she watched true crime documentaries. That Tuesday had been unremarkable in every way. She'd woken at 2 p.m., as she always did when working the night shift. She'd eaten leftover Thai food for breakfast, gone to the gym, called her mother in Wisconsin, and driven the familiar 12 miles to the Clearwater County Emergency Services building just as the sun was setting behind the pine trees. The dispatch center was a windowless room in the basement of the building, humming with the constant white noise of computer fans and the occasional crackle of radio traffic. There were 6 stations, but only 3 were staffed on Tuesday nights. Sarah sat at Station 4, her lucky station, the one closest to the vending machines. To her left was Marcus Webb, a retired firefighter in his 60s who'd taken the job to supplement his pension. To her right, the station was empty. Darnell had called in sick. The night had been slow. A fender bender on Highway 18. A noise complaint about a party on College Avenue. An elderly man who'd fallen in his bathroom and needed help getting up. Routine calls. Forgettable calls. The kind of night where you catch yourself staring at the clock, willing it to move faster. At 11:30, Sarah started thinking about home. About the leftover lasagna in her fridge, about Oliver waiting by the door, about the new episode of that podcast she'd been meaning to listen to. 17 more minutes and she could clock out, drive through the empty streets, and fall into her own bed. At 11:43, Marcus announced he was going to the bathroom. Sarah nodded without looking up from her screen, where she was half-heartedly reading an article about a hiking trail in Colorado she'd never actually visit. At 11:47, the phone rang. Sarah straightened in her chair and tapped the answer button, her voice automatically shifting into its professional cadence. 911, what's your emergency? There was static on the line. Not the clean digital silence of a dead call, but something older, something that sounded like radio interference from another era, like someone dragging their fingers across a vinyl record. And then a voice spoke, a woman's voice, trembling, terrified, barely above a whisper. Please, you have to listen to me. Don't go home tonight. Whatever you do, don't go home. Sarah frowned. The voice was strange, familiar in a way she couldn't quite place, like hearing a song you haven't listened to in years. Ma'am, I need you to calm down and tell me your location. Are you in immediate danger? You're not listening. The voice cracked, and Sarah heard something in the background, a sound that made her blood turn to ice water. It was a wet sound, a tearing sound, like meat being pulled from bone. It's already here. It's been waiting for you. It knows you're coming. Ma'am, please tell me where you are. I'm going to send help. You can't send help. The woman laughed, but it wasn't really a laugh. It was the sound of someone who had seen something so terrible that their mind had simply broken under the weight of it. You can't send help because you're the one who needs it. Sarah Mitchell. Don't go to 1847 Wicker Street tonight. Don't go home. Please, God, don't go home. Sarah's fingers froze over her keyboard. Her home address. This woman knew her home address. She felt her heart begin to slam against her ribs, felt sweat prickle along her hairline despite the aggressive air conditioning. "Who is this?" she demanded, her professional composure cracking. "How do you know my name? How do you know where I live?" "Because I'm you." The words hung in the static-filled air like a guillotine blade suspended by a fraying rope. "I'm you, Sarah. I'm you from 4 hours in the future. And I'm calling from our living room floor, where I'm bleeding out because I didn't listen. Because I thought it was a prank. Because I went home anyway." Sarah's hand was shaking now. She tried to trace the call, but the system was glitching, showing impossible numbers, coordinates that didn't exist, timestamps from tomorrow. "If you go home tonight," the voice continued, and now Sarah could hear it clearly, could hear her own vocal patterns, her own slight lisp on the letter S, her own way of breathing between sentences. "You will die. You will die screaming. You will die alone. And the last thing you'll see is..." The line went dead. Sarah sat motionless, staring at her screen, her coffee growing cold beside her. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The clock on the wall showed 11:52 p.m., and somewhere in the depths of the call log, buried among the routine emergencies and mundane crises of a Tuesday night in Cedar Falls, the system had recorded the incoming number for that final call. It was Sarah's own cell phone, the cell phone that was currently sitting in her purse, 3 feet away, its screen completely dark and its power turned off, exactly where she'd left it when her shift began. Hashtag the 911 dispatcher who received a call from her own voice begging her not to go home that night. Hashtag part 2. The recording played 3 more times before Sarah finally pulled her trembling finger away from the replay button. Each time, her voice, grew more desperate, more raw with terror. And each time she noticed something new, something worse. In the background of the call, beneath the static and the pleading, she could hear breathing. Not from the caller. Someone else was there. Someone waiting. Sarah's supervisor, Marcus, found her 20 minutes later, still frozen at her station, headset dangling from numb fingers. He took one look at her face, the color of old